Kia Sonet is the entry crossover SUV in Kia's South African family. So the baby of the crossover SUV segment. You get the Seltos and of course the Sportage that are bigger. Underwent a slight, very minor facelift quite recently. So there are a couple of little changes, but of course it's got that Tiger grille that we all used to. It's got this treatment over here at the bottom. You can see the silver as opposed to the body color, which stands out and looks good. Now, if you take into account that this is the base LX spec level as well, it does have higher spec levels, EX and EX Plus, for example. You look at that and then you think the spec you get for this car, it becomes quite interesting. You've got, of course, daytime running lights across here. You've got the distinctive stacked headlights that are very unusual, but very typical of Kia these days, and they do look quite distinctive in a segment where it's difficult to differentiate. You come around over here, on this model, you've got 16-inch alloy wheels. It's bi-colored, so it does not look like an entry-level model again. It really doesn't. It's little touches that can take an entry model and make them look a lot better. On upper models in the range, for example, you may get things like roof racks and keyless entry, which this one does without overall, but it's really not a problem. And you would get a little bit more black cladding down the bottom of the doors and around the wheel arches, but again, not big issues. Let's pop open the back door and I'll jump in over here. And guess what? The driver's seat set for me. So I've got tons of space in the back seat. I've got no complaints here. Well, more than enough headroom with my hat on. Little features, and because this is, as always, in the segment aimed at the family market, good to see 2 USBs down at the bottom for the back seat and a couple of aircon vents. So those are good things to see. Now, again, being the base model, you get cloth covered seats, which, okay, I'm not going to complain about. But you do get ISOFIX on 2 of the back seats, and that's useful. As always, I'm sure you realize you can split the rear seat 60-40 and fold it down, etc., etc. All what I would call standard and normal in this market segment. Come round to the back, and the first thing that stands out, of course, is what's now become so standard in the segment of the market, the light bar across the rear tailgate, and the very squarey effect of the back bumper over here, which again is in silver to contrast with body color. Big bold tail lights, all these features, exactly what you expect. You have to open the tailgate yourself. I'm not going to cry about that. Slightly high load sill that you've got to climb over for, of course, the Allen test. And even with the board in place, if I've got my figures right, the boot is just under 400 litres. That's about a 1.25 Allen. Not bad, more than acceptable for this market segment. So I'm quite happy with that. Let's have a look under the boot board. What do you get? And this is a space saver spare wheel. So it is an emergency wheel, as they call it, but at least you do get a spare wheel. Quite happy with that. Close the tailgate manually. Now, there are 2 engine options in the Sonet range. Only one of them with the other engine, but the rest of them get a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder naturally aspirated petrol engine that gives you 85 kilowatts and 138 newton meters of torque. There is an option in the range, one model, with slightly higher spec, I'll tell you about it just now, that gives you a 1 litre turbo that only ups the power to 88 kilowatts, but it gives you 172 newton meters of torque. And there's another crucial difference between those two. All of them driven the front wheels, front wheel drive, but barring the 1 litre turbo, they all have a CVT automatic gearbox, whereas that one has a 7-speed dual clutch. That's the kind of little choices you need to make for yourself. But we'll talk about that a bit more just now. The Kia Sonet is smooth, it's comfortable, it feels solidly put together. It feels, as the term would be, well screwed together. No rattles, no shakes, no nothing, and that's what counts. Although it is a smaller car, you still want to feel solid on the road, and it's doing that nicely. The 1.5 four-cylinder petrol engine, 88 kilowatts, 138 newton meters of torque, and we're driving a CVT automatic. It's all exactly where you want it, what you want, and what you expect. Nice touch screen over there. Got Android Auto. It's not connected right now, but the most impressive fact of this car right now to me is fuel consumption. Done 280 Ks so far, of which about 50 or 60 was pure urban driving, and we're showing 5.9 liters per 100. So in other words, I'm saying to you, you could do an open road cruise like we're doing today at about 5.5, and I think that's pretty impressive. I think that's nice going. There's decent space in the back seat. It's comfortable. You've got everything you want as far as I'm concerned from your crossover SUV, and all in a good solid package. Jumping in behind the wheel, you've got fairly basic but comprehensive, if that makes sense, digital instrumentation. You can scroll through, you can do your things, but I want you to see something. We've done 600 kilometers on this test, 0.3 okay, but look at that average fuel consumption, 6.5 liters per 100. Now, what I can tell you there is the fact that we did a road trip, yes, but then we've done a lot of urban driving. So I'm pretty happy and pretty impressed with that number. I think it's very, very good. You come onto the steering wheel over here, you'll see your normal controls for your sound system, for everything else, and over here is for your instrumentation. Note that on this model, you don't get cruise control. Not saying it's a big deal or a problem, just telling you you don't get it on this one. So just keep that in mind. Moving over to the center screen, it's the typical screen you get in Kias and Hyundais, but let's not go there for now. But it gives you everything you want. Android Auto, you can use wireless. I prefer cable, and it has worked very nicely with cable. And of course, you do have a pretty nice reverse camera system, which has become so required these days that it's fine. So I'm happy with all of that. You come down below and you've got what nowadays is termed manual air conditioning. Fan speed, you press a button, okay, over there, heat, temperature, or where you want it, etc. Good old-fashioned, not having to go into the touchscreen for once. Of course, the Kia theme, notice these rectangular but standing upright air vents on the corners and in the center over here, which is a theme throughout the car. It looks good, it looks neat. Everything obviously is plastic, it's hard plastic, but I've got to tell you that for the category, this car does feel very well screwed together and very solid. And that to me was an important factor on this test. It definitely feels like a nice solid car. You come down below over here, you've got a tray over there for your cell phone, or one over there, you can choose, and you've got two USBs and a 12 volt over there. All nice, standard, easy, no problem. And as I mentioned, with cable, Android Auto works extremely well. Your gear shift, again, the traditional style of an automatic gear shift. You can go across to manual mode if you want, but I really cannot see the point of doing that in this car. But you never know, it's your choice. You want to play with this little lever up and down, I suppose you can if you want. And you've got a manual handbrake. Again, nothing different, nothing new. So these are all things I would expect from the car. Bottom line, let's talk money, of course. Well, this model comes in at 392,000 Rand. It's market competitive. There are so many competitors. I would spend the whole day telling you all of them and going through all of them, so I'm not going to worry too. You can get different spec levels I've mentioned that add features. You'll get, if you go right to the top of the EX Pluses, you'll get leather, you'll get things like that as well. But personally, if I was looking here, my choice would be between two models in this range. This one over here, which retails at 392,000 Rand, or that little 1 litre turbo with the 7-speed dual clutch automatic, which retails at 437,000 Rand. Now, interestingly, I went on to the spec levels on the internet, and the only real difference I could find between the two, besides the gearbox and the engine, was that that version has cruise control. I don't know, that's what I found. Obviously, as I said, if you want to go higher in the range, and you can go as high as 485,000 Rand, still with a 1.5 litre engine, you will get all the bells and whistles. That's choices you have to make. I can't make them for you. You've got to see how you feel, which engine you prefer, which gearbox you prefer, and how much money you've got to spend. But you do know you're getting a solidly built car, it feels solid on the road, and of course it comes with a 7-year, 200,000 kilometer warranty from Kia. Those are points to take into consideration when you're making an educated buying decision. Go and drive them all. Make your own decisions. You know which are the good ones. I don't have to tell you more about